Thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, Eternal Flame here, and I'm here today to talk about why Yuji needs to be the one to put down Sukuna, and it's going to be a lot more than just narrative evidence of, oh, Yuji and Sukuna's narratives are linked to each other and Yuji needs to kill Sukuna. No, I have evidence that Yuji is probably the only one who can actually truly put down Sukuna and not Gojo. At least the soul way. But please listen to what I'm about to say before you dislike my video. Please, it is very important. However, before we even get into this video and my theory, be sure to like and subscribe if you like anime content like this. We got plenty more on the way. And let's get straight into the video. So if you guys remember early on, when Yuji ate the finger, ate the second finger, there was something that Gojo had established at that point that was extremely early on. Those fingers are indestructible and Gojo can't destroy them. And there was something else to remember, and that is the fact Sukuna can recreate the fingers, because as we find out at a later point, it was Sukuna who turned himself into fingers. So even if Gojo wins this battle, Sukuna can just turn himself back into fingers. That's also completely ignoring the fact that Sukuna can also just chill in Megumi's soul, which is why Gojo can't truly finish Sukuna off. But do you know who is able to understand that they can transport themselves into the soul through eating objects because they have experienced it directly? Yuji Itadori. However, while my sponsor doesn't offer the ability to transfer souls to other people through eating objects, our sponsor does offer you the ability to understand the soul of Japan even more through their snacking and their habits of Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. And hey, you don't have to eat a finger, so nice bonus. However, before we get into this video, I do want to show off our brand new 2 sponsors to the page, Sakura Co. and Tokyo Treat. Sakura Co. and Tokyo Treat have an entire massive goal of being able to share the experience of Japan, the experience of snacks that they have in Japan with the world and with everyone. So they mail little snack boxes that are amazing to people in order to introduce them both to the modern side of Japan and how people in Tokyo snack, as well as the more traditional side and how traditional snacks are made within Japan. Every single month they also have their own specific themes in order to go along with the boxes. First, we're going to go over Tokyo Treat and their specific theme for this month, which their specific theme is the Moon Festival Snackin', where you taste the festival through the Moon Festival inspired snacks, like the Kit Kat Chestnut. I really gotta say this, the Kit Kat Chestnut is amazing. Like, at first, I was a bit iffy on, like, what a chestnut candy would be, like a Kit Kat with chestnuts infused into it, but when I tried it, my taste buds were blown away. I was actually surprised by how amazing this actually was. And that's just one of the several snacks inside the Tokyo Treat box. They also have mint chocolate moon pebbles, and they have full moon rice crackers, and I'm planning to get the mint chocolate moon pebbles and the full moon rice crackers tonight. But that's just one of the boxes. Though some of you guys might be wondering, okay, how am I supposed to understand this Eternal? It's clearly written in Japanese, and I only speak English. Well, you see, they already got you covered, because they have these little booklets made both to show you off what these candies are, but more importantly, to show off a little bit of a story and a little bit more of the culture of Japan, so you can get an even better understanding of the snacks. For example, the Tokyo Treat box has something known as the brown sugar and kinako mochi stick, where, as the book says, this classic rice cake snack is coated in nutty kinako or soybean powder. Its chewy, sticky texture reminds of a sumiki dango. It also tells you what it contains and what it contains traces of, and if it's suitable for vegetarians even. It's honestly really good, and that's just the Tokyo Treat box. Now let's get into the actual Sakura Co. box. For Sakura Co., their theme is known as the Autumn Moon Festival, where the Autumn Festival allows you to enjoy the full moon soft chew, the full moon cookie, and the black sesame mochi that all do well with this tea, which I've recently made the tea and it tastes really, really good. Like, all of this just tastes really good. You're going to be especially impressed. And they also get their own dishes too that you can add to your own collection. They also have their own Sakura Co. strawberry white chocolate fruit. And I just gotta say this, I'm someone who's always been a bit suspicious about chocolate on fruit, but they did it really, really well, and I love it. Like, all of this is really great. And let's also go a little bit more in depth with what this theme means, because this theme is really cool and I find it really, really interesting, especially now I actually get to learn more about it. As you can also learn when you read this booklet. Welcome to the enchanting world of Sumiki, the Japanese tradition of viewing and embracing the serene beauty of the autumn moon. As the leaves begin to don their golden hues and the air carries a crisp whisper, Sumiki has a time that invites us to pause, to gaze upon the moon that graces the night sky, and to immerse ourselves in emotions that this only season can awaken. And, like, that's really cool and it's really beautiful. Like, that is incredibly beautiful, because as someone who's like heard a bit about Tsumiki, I've never really been too interested about them, but this has made me want to learn more and more about them because this booklet has just taught me so much. And finally, to end this off, the community is having a photo contest where this month they have decided that if you can take a picture or reel of you and your Sakurako boxes alongside your autumn traditions and upload it to the media with the hashtag Sakurako or Sakurako Autumn, you have the potential to gain as a grand prize a craft beer glass and for free month Sakurako subscription, and the runner-ups will get a fireworks chopsticks rest and one free 1 month subscription to Sakurako. And they're going to be picking winners on October 25th, 2023, and you could win one of these prizes, so I hope to see some of you guys in there. And yeah, thank you Sakurako and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring this vid. Y'all are great. Hope y'all enjoy. Also, remember to use the code ETERNAL and my link in the description in order to get $5 off your first Sakurako through my link in the description below. Alright, so some of you guys might be confused at why I am establishing the fact that Gojo can't destroy the fingers as a very, very important thing. Well, in Chapter 2, it is established that cursed objects like Sukuna's fingers are not something that Gojo can destroy. After all, if Gojo could destroy the cursed fingers, then he would have destroyed them up to this point. And some of you guys might be wondering, okay, why does this matter that Sukuna's fingers can't get destroyed? And that is for one very, very simple reason. We know for a fact Sukuna can do it to himself because we literally see him do it to himself, and we know he learned how to do it for himself. In Chapter 228, it's established that Sukuna learned how to do it after just seeing Kenjaku do it once, because the first time he got help from Kenjaku, but he learned how to do it completely on his own after, and we see him do it directly with Yuji's finger and putting his own soul into Megumi's finger, allowing him to basically transplant his soul and just yeet it over to Megumi. So even if Gojo was okay with Megumi and wasn't trying to save Megumi right now, Sukuna wouldn't die, because Sukuna would just turn his own soul into a finger and keep himself alive that way again. So even if Gojo could kill Megumi, he wouldn't, because it just wouldn't do anything in the long run. Also because of the fact that Sukuna can keep Megumi in suspended death, as Gojo himself called out a while back, that Sukuna's mistake was showing that Yuji can still be alive, and that Sukuna and Yuji can still live even after being killed back in the detention center. Basically, all of this to say that no matter what the result of this battle is, even if Gojo is actually the winner at this point or not, and if Sukuna has no cards left, no matter what, Gojo doesn't have a way to actually put Sukuna down and truly kill him. He doesn't even have a way to actually free Megumi. He only has a way to physically beat Sukuna down enough to make it so Sukuna is no longer a threat. And that is why I don't think Gojo is physically capable of killing Sukuna. Not because he's not powerful enough, but because he can't. Because Sukuna can just turn himself into a cursed object, something that Gojo has long since established that he can't destroy when it's Sukuna's own fingers. However, that doesn't mean that Gojo can't beat down and weaken Sukuna's soul. While I don't think that Gojo is capable of killing Sukuna's soul, I think Gojo has weakened Sukuna's cursed energy enough to the point where it forces Sukuna back into the cursed energy realm, where Megumi is currently being kept and suppressed at the current moment. However, while Gojo doesn't have a way to transplant himself into Sukuna's soul, someone else does, and that character is Yuji, and this is the part of why I think it's Yuji who will be the one to put down Sukuna, because Yuji and Megumi are currently the only two people who I actually think can fully put Sukuna down for good, or at least force him back into his original body, like to recreate his original body or something, but I do think that it's going to be killing his soul will be the ultimate important thing. Now, there are a total of likely 2 questions going through you people's heads right now. The first question likely being, how can Yuji transplant himself into Sukuna's soul to directly fight him? And B, and probably what you consider the more important question, how is Yuji supposed to be able to fight Sukuna and actually be strong enough to fight Sukuna in this current state? I'm going to answer the second question first because I feel that's a lot easier. Number 1, as I said previously, I don't think this is going to be a full power Sukuna. And if anyone has ever listened carefully to any of my videos, I have never once said Yuji is beating full power, full healthy Sukuna at full power. No, I think Yuji's only chance of beating Sukuna, despite all the power-ups that I think are laid out for Yuji, despite all of the massive amount of potential Yuji has, in my opinion, I only think his only chance will be to fight him in an area where he has an advantage and can get him already injured by this point. And what better area is that other than the soul after Gojo has already finished fighting him and weakening him heavily up to this point? alongside that of Megumi assisting him if he is able to talk Megumi out of the depressed state that Sukuna has forcefully put him in, who Megumi is going to get a massive amp up to this point as well. Because I want you guys to remember the state Sukuna is put in at the end of this chapter. He is extremely damaged, his cursed energy reserves are extremely low, etc. So if at this point they basically have Yuji tag in order to transplant themselves into Sukuna's soul, that would be the best time to actually try and kill Sukuna. This could also be where stack that on top of the fact that Yuji is much stronger than the first time he even fought Sukuna, and even now, purely because he's gotten a post-time skip amp, and I think all of the characters are much stronger than they were beforehand. That is a video for another day. I do think Yuji and this new Mega Depression amped Megumi with potential totality has a good chance of actually putting down this extremely tired and weakened Sukuna. Now I will focus on the actual fight of it later into the vid, purely because I don't want to spend too long talking about the power scaling in this point, and I feel I need to bring up the how he can even do it, but I know the main comments I am going to get is Yuji isn't physically capable of actually taking on Sukuna, and I completely agree. Yuji shouldn't be capable of taking on Sukuna, but I think he is capable of putting down a weak, injured soul Sukuna. But how is Yuji able to transplant himself into Sukuna's soul, and how can that even make sense, and why do you think that is the case? That's likely one of the questions I think you guys are asking me right now. Well, for one, Yuji knows Megumi is currently inside of Sukuna's innate domain at the current moment. How do we know this? Because Yuji knows what happens directly better than every other character, what happens after that he dies. After all, Yuji has died before and gone to Sukuna's innate domain. He not just knows that Megumi and Sukuna are going to be inside the innate domain, he knows it's possible to fight Sukuna and die inside of the innate domain because Yuji has died before in the innate domain. Not just that, he also knows it's possible for an outside soul to interact directly with the innate domain. After all, he has seen Mahito do it. So what I think that Yuji is trying to do is figure out his own way to access the innate domain via transplanting his soul into another person and yeeting it inside of them in order to try and fight Sukuna inside the innate domain after talking to Megumi to try and give Megumi the pep talk that he needs, so it can be both Yuji and Megumi versus Sukuna. Because Yuji is set up to be in a really good position where he is the only one who can assist Megumi in actually taking out Sukuna up to this point, because Yuji is the only one who is able to enter into someone else's soul. Especially considering the fact that we know Yuji has the possibility, at least, to transplant into Sukuna's soul. Because while the soul swap stuff is very vague, I still lean closer to this being a sign that they soul swapped, but I also lean closer to the soul swap not even being Yuji's original intention for the technique, and that is why he's telling himself to master it already. Because he knows if he soul swaps with Sukuna, there is a pretty good chance he might accidentally end up letting Sukuna roam around in his own body, his now much more physically powerful body than it was before, and while Gojo can likely beat them, Gojo is in an extremely exhausted state in comparison to Sukuna, who's going to have full energy and full stamina and potentially the ability to use his domain using Yuji's brain rather than his own brain. It's weird. Furthermore, Yuji also knows there's a potential way to do it, and he might have potential memories of the experience. Because I want you guys to remember something. Yuji still had Sukuna inside of him for the final moments that Sukuna directly transplanted his own soul into Yuji and transplanted it specifically towards his finger and ripped it off to shove it into Megumi. Furthermore, we also know Yuji remembers the direct experience of Sukuna thanks to the Shibuya Arc. And I do also think that Yuji did try and tell Gojo about the fact that he had a barrierless domain, but I want y'all to remember this. No one knew what the interaction between a barrierless and barrier domain would be until the moment it actually happened on screen, and we saw the barrierless domain just attacks the barrier on the outside as well. And that is the weakness towards having a barrier domain against a barrierless domain, until Gojo adjusted and found his own way. That is also why I believe Kusakabe is telling Yuji to get a grip on it already, because Kusakabe knows what Yuji's intended purpose with this technique is, to trap two souls into one body and not let the other soul leak out into the original body. So, Kusakabe is telling Yuji to master it already because Kusakabe knows it should be both him and Yuji in one body at the current moment, being Kusakabe's body, and not him and Yuji inside of two bodies and like swap souls. because that is the worst possible scenario for them, because to tire out and beat Sukuna, it will take extremely tiring out Gojo, and the cast knows that if they manage to soul swap with Sukuna and get him inside of Yuji's body, there's not much of a chance they have up to this point, because you're going to have a full energy Sukuna inside of Yuji's body, with now Yuji's much stronger physical stats in comparison to Megumi, in comparison to everyone else who's going to be tired up to this point, or at least Gojo, who is going to be tired up to this point, who is their main defense against Sukuna. And while I do think Gojo would beat Yuji Kuna at full energy, I don't think right now Gojo could beat Yuji Kuna, purely because of how low Gojo is in stamina, and especially for the unpredicted cause of Gojo losing access to his domain expansion. And now you have a stronger Yuji Sukuna using domain amplification in the process at full stamina. Furthermore, this also likely isn't even a technique, because Sukuna's curse technique is not this. Sukuna's curse technique is not the ability to transplant his soul into cursed objects, because we know this is something that you can learn. Furthermore, there's a likely chance that Yuji also is trying his best to learn it and still hasn't exactly fully figured it out yet, which is why he's not actually fully there yet, but he's trying to tell himself to get a grip on it already. Or well, Sukuna's, which is why Kusakabe is telling him to get a grip on it. Furthermore, I also think that's why he learned Simple Domain, because he knows what happened the last time he tried to fight against Sukuna inside the Innate Domain, which was Sukuna immediately cleaved Yuji's head off. And yes, there is a chance that could happen again, but I don't think that can happen again with Sukuna already being this extremely drained on curse energy and just being so tired up to this point, which was their goal and plan, because their plan always completely revolved around tiring out Megumi. You can go back to extremely early when Maki straight up tells them, yeah, we're going to need to tire out Sukuna and remove Sukuna from the picture in order for our plan to work, in order to save Megumi. And the same remains here. Alright, furthermore, this is a more headcanon theory, but might as well get into this, because there are two ways I can also see other things factoring into this battle. Number one, an interesting statement that Choso made, that Yuji's brothers will always live on inside of him after he consumed them. What if that's a literal way, and just we're gonna get all of Yuji's siblings, like the blood siblings, assisting him in the soul battle against Sukuna, and it will be just like a 1v6 rather than a 1v1? Or there's also the other chance that, because Yuji is soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy now, Sukuna's cleave and dismantle will do much less damage to him, purely because of the simple fact of something we learned in the most recent chapter. Your own cursed energy attacks will do much less damage to you in comparison to other people, because it's your own cursed energy. For example, Gojo's Hollow Purple did much less damage to Gojo in comparison to everyone else, because it was his own cursed energy, and the same could apply here, where because Yuji is soaked in 15 fingers worth of Sukuna's cursed energy, Cleave and Dismantle will do much less damage to him in comparison to before, where he had Sukuna for a much shorter amount of time and much less of Sukuna inside of him in comparison to now, where he's had 15 fingers worth of Sukuna in him for several weeks, and he is much stronger in comparison to before. We also already know Yuji can technically tank cleaves and dismantles when they're being heavily suppressed, so with Sukuna already being extremely exhausted and Yuji might have access to Sukuna's cursed energy to defend himself with, he might be able to defend himself against cleave and dismantle even further and not insta-die to them, as well as whatever Sukuna's curse technique is. There's also a chance that he might be able to straight up use Sukuna's curse technique when he sees him, but these last few things that I said were just headcanon, I'll admit that, but there's still chances that these can all happen. I'm pretty confident Yuji has learned Simple Domain by this point, and I'm very confident this is what Yuji's plan was to do, in order to try and transplant himself into Sukuna's soul. There's also a chance that they might actually end up swapping souls, and they're going to have to deal with Yuji Kuna for a little bit before Yuji tries dragging Sukuna right back in, so it can be him and Megumi who fight against Sukuna after Yuji gives Megumi a little bit of a pep talk, because there is no way in hell that I see Megumi actually getting talked to while Sukuna exists and Sukuna just being like, no. So I could just see the fight playing out between everyone else versus Yuji Kuna for a little bit until Yuji just pulls Sukuna's soul right back into Megumi's body for him and Megumi to fight against Sukuna inside of the soul plane, and just finish him off inside of there and take out his soul while Kenjaku does his Kenjaku things. But yeah, that's basically my entire theory on why I think Yuji is the only one who can take out Sukuna. It's not for narrative reasons, it's straight up Yuji's the only one with the tools to actually, like, permanently fully put him down, assuming taking out the soul is the actual way, and just no one has been able to touch his soul before. There's also the fact that, like, I completely forgot about this is the only time we've actually seen Sukuna kinda offended to something before, and that is Mahito straight up touching Sukuna's soul. So that actually might prove even more that that's a potential way to take out Sukuna once and for all, because that's the only time we've ever actually seen Sukuna be offended to something, but that's just headcanon. Anyways, I want to see what you guys' thoughts are on this theory down below in the comment section below. I'm going to see y'all later. Peace.